leadership is what you say and what you do. Leading would not mean that you are at the front. Leading would mean that you are behind them, ensuring that there's no problem at the end or behind their backs. Unless you talk about what you don't know and what you are probably not as good as in, then how will you ask for help and support from your own team members who may be excellent? Somebody saying you are a manager, not a leader. I think we're all managers at every stage. So we're all leaders at every stage. It's just that how versatile you are to do things differently at different times as needed. Big risk, because I was 13 plus 8 or 5, 18, 19 years of industry experience, and I left my job and I joined as a contractor. Right? So it's self-awareness, it's insecurity. That's what we need do away with as leaders. That's a big mindset shift that we need to do. In-laws thought I was crazy. My wife thought I was crazy. And I said no. I said I want to try out something different. And if you are in that awareness zone, then do you know if it's the right time to cry? Do that. If it's the right time to become angry. That changes the whole dynamics of leadership. How flexible are you to change your leadership style as needed? I think that probably becomes the core of things, right? It's
most of what we give the world won't be loud. Now, this is not a tagline. In fact, this is the philosophy I've picked, a leaf that I've taken out of book of Sumit. He is a leader who have amplified his impact wherever he has gone, and yet he is known for consistently changing the domains. Not in a negative way, but as an exploration to his own potential. Sumit, I've been really looking forward to have you on this podcast, and thank you for taking out time.
Thank you, Saurabh. I think it's a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor actually to be sitting here and looking forward to sharing some thoughts.
In fact, like Sumit was one of those leaders who have impacted me a lot, even though I did not get to work directly with him, but I was fortunate enough to sit at the cabin or sit at a seat which was just opposite to his cabin, and um, I've seen him in action. So I know you've been humbled to say that it's been an honor, but I love to have you in this podcast. And I was kind of itching for a very long time to unravel your leadership philosophy and what makes you such a charismatic leader, with that wherever you go, the people you leave behind are thinking about you, and the people who you take under you are, of course, raving about you. So, before I dive into what your leadership is, Sumit, I would love to know how your journey has shaped up. If you can give us a quick walkthrough of like what was your education and then how your career transitioned, I think that will help us to set a lot of context to this conversation today.
Sure, why not? Right? It's been, I think, from a start perspective, it's been slightly uh, bumpy. Is the right word?
Bumpy, okay.
Uh, so I was looking forward to becoming a doctor. So I was did my in science with maths, biology in 12th, and then I took a 1 year break actually after my 12th to prep for medical exams and everything. And it didn't happen, right? And I think life takes you to certain areas where it happens for a reason, is what I believe. I think it was a reason for it to not happen. So I eventually got into engineering. Uh, if I can also share, right? And in 12th, my numbers in the board in physics were not very good. So if I have to list on all my subjects, physics was probably my weakest subject.
Okay.
And I feel that it's amazing that I did engineering even after having physics. It was not too great, right? So that started my foray into getting into technology space, so to say. And even after doing my engineering, it wasn't very clear on what next. Today there is a lot more clarity that we see in the world with lot of options available. the youngsters have ample availability of information in front of them. At that point, we didn't have a lot. We didn't have people who would guide us. We didn't have information readily available. Of course, there wasn't internet. So after completing engineering, also was trying to understand what to do. One friend came up, said, "Let's do Oracle course." We did Oracle course, and then we got into a job based on Oracle. Right, so that's how the journey started with my first job in software development in Oracle database, and from there on, with Birlasoft was my first company. Couple of years with them, then went to Churchill Insurance, which is now RBS. Again, within the software space, and then finally with Accenture, where I stayed for about 13, 14 years. Again, started with Accenture uh, in the technology space, doing software development, leading software development projects, but then gradually Accenture gave me a lot of options to try on, and that has shaped a lot of my journey going forward. Within Accenture, from software development to business analytics to functional architecture to a lot of things that I could play around with, and then finally got to lead a project for with technical content development, and that triggered the move into the HR space. Right. So again, when life offers you something, you never know where it's turning towards, and I just took some opportunities. And
In that looks like a ride full of adventure, because like, if I have to, if somebody says that, I know somebody who's been doing this, and this, I would say like, hey, where's the stability in that? Like, and uh, you have been successful at whatever you've done, and I think everything that you do has contributed to a level up that you were able to achieve post it. So many people that I see today, Sumit, are kind of lost. And one of the biggest challenges that I see with people at my age group is that we've been doing something we don't love. Many of us, like, we just started a career, we kept on doing because like it's bringing money and food on the table, and it sustained our family. And now when you're 40, at least I can talk about myself, you certainly find yourself in this midlife crisis, wherein you're halfway through and you hate the next half that perhaps you're able to predict for yourself. So what would you say to people, like, and especially because I know you've been switching, right? So it's not been about money, it's not been about titles, but it's more been about finding a meaning in what you're doing. So somebody who's in a position wherein they are in that midlife crisis, they don't make sense of, no longer relate to what they have been doing, and there's a sense of desperation in them. How would you guide them if you had to mentor one such person?
I think first of all, through the journey, I think if there are few things that I can probably reflect back on. One definitely is the ability that I feel I had to try on different things. Because unless you try on different things, you don't know what's that something that you're liking, what is it that you will want to grow further into, right? So that I see, not in your generation, but even with youngsters, my son and their generations also, right, who are just starting to get into jobs, is they have a clarity of things, saying, I don't want to do this.
Right. Yeah.
Which I don't think is the right clarity at that age.
Okay.
At that age, the clarity should be, what all can I do? And that's probably one thing that I feel is very, very important, is try on different things. Unless you try different things, you never know what you like, what you don't like. If
That's such a wisdom bomb. I think, like, if I would take a pause to absorb the impact of what you just said. That clarity. I mean, you should be asking this question to yourself: what all can I do, rather than just being single dimensional in what you're doing.
yeah, I think we, as a leader, we talk a lot about somebody who spent 15 years, 10, 12, 15 years in the industry, in the career, and we say, learn to say no.
Yeah.
That's the right time to say no. When you're starting your career, is the time to say yes. I did everything that came on the table, right? Everything.
Yeah.
Almost one or two things I said no at that time, but most of things, doing graveyard shifts, doing production support, doing testing. People were dreading doing testing. With software developers, you say go into testing, they would dread. I think the biggest learning that I had was testing, because once you're developing something, you don't know how it will work, right? Unless you do testing, you never
And that
know how it
helps to
works.
bridge a gap,
Yeah,
right?
and so those are things that I feel were very, very important. Is be curious, look at things, learn things, try different things, and unless you do that, you never know what's your calling, right? So that's first. When you are in that journey of, let's say, 15 years into the experience, now you're in the midlife, career midlife, also personally midlife as well, and wanting to try and see what paths should we take going forward. At that point, I think it's your ability to have clarity on what would take you into retirement and beyond. What is it that will give you the right kind of satisfaction on what you're doing? And that, for that, at times you might have to take risk. So the transition that I had, a biggest transition. So I was about what 13, 14 years into Accenture, and it was a fantastic organization, right? It can give you enormous opportunities. Accenture is such an organization where you can stay for life, because it's multidimensional. You can look at doing anything you want to do, and you just have to think of what direction, and you might find an opportunity. But at that point, I was trying to look at the right path, and I wasn't too sure about what I need to do. And I got an opportunity from outside. Somebody called me up and said, "Would you like to join us and help us drive our performance management strategy?" And we're looking at transforming that piece. And I said, "It sounds exciting." And that's where I want to grow into, right? So I wanted to make a full time shift into deep HR at that point, right? And I took that opportunity. Big risk, because I was uh, what 13 plus 8 or 5, 18, 19 years
Of
industry
experience, right?
experience, and I left my job and I joined as a contractor to
And I,
join.
I guess like I'll be talking about that with you as well. But this is such gold that what you're telling me, and it also opens my mind to like multiple questions. And like, I'm sorry if I'm hazy about structuring those questions with you, Sumit. So first thing that I really find striking about it is that as a person who's well settled in an organization which is giving you everything that you want, you decided to move out of the comfort zone. So that in itself is something like an entire episode I can talk to you about, or I wish I can talk to you about. Second thing which strikes me the most is how when you're moving from a place where you're well settled and which is giving you everything. Even I'm sure Accenture as an organization also gave you every opportunity that, hey, if you want to deep dive into this domain, we have a roadmap for you. I'm sure that happened for you, yet you decided to switch. And at that time you were married, you had kids, if I recall the correct. Like, the two things that I would primarily try to draw out of you is like, what is it like constantly pushing yourself out of the comfort zone? And secondly, like, did people around you started saying that, hey, Sumit, you're crazy, are you mad that you're taking this decision, like you're leaving everything which is like all paved up for you, and then you saying that I need to dig my own road? So like, what was that experience from both, like internally moving out of comfort zone and externally where people started raising those questions?
Yeah, I think good question, right? In terms of reflecting back. Uh, so when I look at that instance, so I was 7, 8 years leading a project within Accenture, right? So first 5 years I was completely into technology projects. Then I started leading a project which was in the learning development space,
Okay.
uh, building an HR shared service kind of team for like 7, 8 years. And then I wanted to go deeper into HR, and I was trying to foray into what next. And of course, during those 7, 8 years also, I was still keeping my technical aspects together. So I was still leading small projects which were technical in nature, was a project manager for some of them, right? So it was not that I was completely out of technology. But at that, I was done with building that team, so to say. I wanted to do something different, and I tried. It's not that I was not trying. I was still curious to see what else can I do. So I looked at. I went to Chennai for 3 4 months with Accenture to pull a team out of uh, some limbo they were in. So I went there, sat with them, helped them come out of those challenging time, more as a consulting manager, so to say, right? Came back, got into another project for robotics process automation with RPA, with Nokia. So I was trying my hands, but at the back of my mind, I wasn't feeling satisfied in what I was doing, and and somehow this opportunity came into picture. And from the time the first discussion around this opportunity happened, it took 9 months for me to finally leave Accenture.
Okay.
Right, so it was that kind of long journey.
Yeah.
Because it's a big decision that you need to take to try and do that. Right? So it's again at that point the thought was, what if I don't leave? What if I continue and try? How long should I try? And at 40, you don't have a lot of opportunity to say, if not now, then
Exactly. Yeah.
how long should I wait? Right?
And
If I
many
late
people
for
at 40 would not even ask that question. They would silently, roll down their head and continue to do what they are doing, because shifting with, I mean, by that time you've set up a family, you're settled, you're known for what you've been doing, and then your kids, their future. There's so much at stake that I'm sure post 35 people would dread the idea of, hey, can I go ahead and try something entirely different?
yeah. And at that point also, see, we come from a lower middle class family, right? So we've seen every kind of situation in life as we grew up. And at that point also, when I was taking this career shift, it wasn't that everything was settled. I was still living in a rented apartment. My kids were still in school. Right, my wife was, of course, working as a teacher, but you have that kind of instability, so to say. Uh, but it was a thought that came into my mind is, if not now, then I can't do it in the after next 3 4 5 years, then it's impossible. It will become even more difficult for me to change gears and try something different, right? So that was the first part of the question. So where was I scared? Was there insecurity process in my mind? Absolutely yes. Right? I didn't know if I was taking the right decision, so to say. And to answer your second question, were there people who were supporting me or saying I shouldn't do it?
Yeah.
I think more people saying I shouldn't do it than people supporting me. Right. In fact,
And that's logical for them to.
it's logical, right?
Yeah.
And there were a couple of people uh, in Accenture who I was working with, and they said, "You're getting salary. Accenture is always on
Stability
time
there.
paying bonuses. It's stable. Why are you doing this? You will get what you want eventually,
Yeah.
right? So just stay on and do it." And I said no. I said I want to try out something different. My parents thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
My in-laws thought I was crazy. My wife thought I was crazy. So it was everybody who was, and I think logically so.
Loved ones are meant to protect you. I think, like, just like a brain, sometimes people around us, they do everything in their power to protect us, and saving us from risks are also, like, I think, a part of that parcel.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I look back, I think they were right in terms of being protective, being caring about it, and also thinking about it. I'm leaving a stable job which is giving me not just salary but also benefits come around it. In contract job, you don't get your insurance, you don't get that benefit and all that stuff.
Contractors, I mean, contractor as a job in itself says that, hey, there's uncertainty.
Yeah.
You know.
But I took that, right? And I took it on face value of couple of people. Right? One eventually got support from my wife, who said, if that's something that you feel is going to help you grow forward, do you think it's right for your growth, career perspective, try it out.
Yeah.
Always you can go back to what you were doing and go back to something else, but try it out, right? And that helped, right, in terms of at least having somebody who says, yeah, let's do it. So that was definitely one. And the second person is, of course, the one who offered me the job. So he created that kind of comfort, saying that why are we pulling you in is because we need you to solve something for us. It's just coincidental that we don't have an organization in India.
Right.
Our organization is US based. If if we were in India, we would hire you as a full time, but we are not in India yet. So we want to hire you. For us, you are still an employee. Just coincidental that we don't have a entity set up. That's why you're hiring us as a direct
On
right?
third party.
Through some other vendor. But he said, talk to the CHRO, talk to the CEO, and then decide. Right? So I talked to the CHRO, I talked to the CEO. They all gave me the same message, saying that doesn't matter what paper says, right? You're an employee for us.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be true, right? In that first year as a contractor, I went twice to US. Who would call a contractor to US, right? I went twice to US, worked with them, helped them through a lot of things, and then uh, one fine day I get a call from the CEO, a missed call. It was late in the evening because they are US, right? So they were, and it was a missed call, and I said I was having dinner and I looked at that call and I went to my wife and I said, the CEO has called me. What would be the first reaction?
They're firing me.
That was exactly the thought. And my wife said, that did not look good. And I said, why would he call me
Yeah.
first thing in his morning? And I called back and he said, look, when we were hiring you, we had this discussion when we said, trust us, you don't have an entity in India. We will possibly look at opening school. You are the first person that I'm calling to say that we are opening up in India.
Wow.
Can you imagine a CEO doing it? And he said, you are the first person I'm calling you, and you will be our first employee officially. So sometimes things pay off, right? And sometimes, and I've talked about it earlier with some other people as well. To me, that is leadership. Leadership is what you say and what you do. Right? If you're saying you will do it, and if you do it, that's what leadership is all about. And it and at times you started with that quote saying it shouldn't be loud. That's exactly what it is.
And
Through the last entire year when I joined,
yeah.
nobody told me. So they were working at the back about some of those things and thinking about it.
And I feel so many people need to hear this because, like, when I try to talk about leadership with people as a title, they are always associating it with, hey, I need to have power, I need to take decisions, I need to impose myself on others, or at least they would think about, I'll have a crowd behind me when I'm a leader. And understanding that leadership is a silent process and it starts with leading oneself. That is so profound to get from you, Sumit. Thank you. And it also makes me very curious, and it makes me recall, and I'm just digging on that part, for you. So there's this podcaster called Alex Hermosi, if you've heard about him. So he talks about a phase in somebody's life which he titles as the lonely chapter. So the lonely chapter is when you're trying to change yourself and create a new version of yourself. So that means you're no longer who you were, but you are neither the person you want to become. So you're somewhere midway. You've left the identity and you're about to, or in the process of achieving a new identity for yourself. And then during that lonely chapter, it is that people continue to pull you back, or you yourself try to pull you back, and you lose a lot of friends during that chapter. So when you reflect back on that phase wherein like you kept on transitioning and each transition made you better into a new version of yourself, do you also feel you lose people with growth?
I actually don't think so.
Okay.
I think uh, from a growth standpoint, you actually cannot grow without more support. You can never grow without more support. At each transition phase, I had mentors, I had leaders, I had friends who were there to support me. I had family, of course, that was supporting me. And that helps in the growth process. And if I can counter that,
Yeah.
podcast,
Of course you can, yeah.
right? Saying when you're in that transition journey, you leave few friends, and I think it's 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 two ways, right? You need to ensure that you're not letting them go.
Mm-hmm.
That's first thing around it. So what are you doing to keep that as your core support group? And secondly, as you are transitioning into the new role, what are the new support group that you're creating?
Right.
And I've heard this a lot, saying it's lonely at the top, right? As leaders, I've heard this a lot.
Yes,
I don't.
that's like one of the most.
I don't think it's lonely at the top.
Okay.
It's and I'll counter it with another thing, right? We see a lot of people saying, "I'm a leader. I have a lot of following. I have a lot of backing." If I am a leader, I need to be standing behind my team, not in front of my team. And if I'm standing behind my team, then why am I lonely? I see them in front of me, and I look at them all ahead of me, and I'm helping them, to be there, and they are helping, going ahead and seeing the path for me, not me. I think that has to change in the thought process. Is leading would not mean that you are at the front. Leading would mean that you are behind them, ensuring that there's no problem at the end,
Yeah.
or behind their backs, not in front of them.
But then that is, I mean, I don't want to counter that, because this is exactly the reason I started this podcast, to get this philosophy out. But when I see the real world scenario today, it is like, um, I mean, what you're saying is a rarest of the rare occasion. Not many people that you would meet will have that ability to do it, because what you're talking about is that I would nurture, I'll protect, yet I would let them or give them a space there that they can become a better leader in future. But many leaders, or at least designationally those who are leaders, they are transactional in nature. So like I like to look at it like, without being negative about it, but when I meet leaders, I just try to put them into either a transactional type of leader or transformational type of leader. Rarity is the blend of both. So most of the people that I meet, I see, I try to find out what their leadership style is. They are about numbers, they are about performance, they are about the KPIs, SLAs, and seldom about people. Now, your style of leadership, when I say it's so inspiring, Sumit, because you're talking about, I know the people I'm working with are human and they have a potential. I have to make them grow. Yet people don't do that. So, what stops them? Like in your experience, I'm sure it's not that you've met everyone who's like you. You've seen the kind of scenarios I'm talking about. So, like,
Yeah. See, I think it's, and I'm not saying that uh, you will always be behind them, right? I'm saying that should be your uh, method to let others be in front of you so that they can grow, right? If you are always in front of your team, how will they grow or have an opportunity to be in your place?
and that's the entire point of this podcast and like me talking to you, because people don't do that. Like, so if you meet, let's say if you meet a person who's highly transactional and they approach you that, hey Sumit, can you be my mentor? How would you help them, or how would you help them to realize that what they are doing is not typically right? Because I know so many well intended leaders as well, that okay, let me protect my team, let me be that cushion, let me be in front of them, so that if there's anything coming, that goes through me first.
And I'm not saying transaction is bad.
Neither am I.
I'm saying,
I'm being diplomatic,
but
when I
I'm
say
saying you need
transaction.
to do both,
Yeah.
and you need to do more of the former thing that I'm saying and less of transactional, right? Because your leadership capability shines when you're not just thinking of transaction. So you need to be all around. And at times you will have to push the team and go in front of them. It is required. And I'm not saying KPIs are not important. I'm not saying that SLAs are not important. They are important. At the end, we are running a business.
Mhm.
right? We are working towards an organization that needs to grow. We are all aiming towards revenue generation. We are all aiming towards cost efficiencies, all those kind of things,
Yeah.
right? And that's the primary goal of any organization, unless you are in a non-profit or NGO,
Mm.
right? In that also you need money to get
Absolutely.
things done,
Yeah.
right? But the point is, how are you doing it, and how flexible are you to change your leadership style as needed? I think that probably becomes the core of things, right? It's more about, how do we say, the whole uh, making sure that you are flexible enough to understand what needs to be done, when, what style is needed, and what your team needs at that time. If I'm hiring somebody in my team today, am I hiring somebody who's like me, who is better than me, or who is worse than me? That makes a lot of difference as well. If my nature of having a team is always have somebody who knows something better than you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point in having a team?
And like if somebody struggles through the insecurity that, hey, um and I'm sure you know people, I also know people with that mindset that I can't have people better than me in this team because that would put my place at a jeopardy maybe. So like what leads to that different mindset in you, Sumit, that I am okay with working with people who are better than me because they add eventually value to a larger goal that I'm working for.
Yeah, it's insecurity. I think that's the biggest thing that one needs to get out of from a leadership style perspective is one, self-awareness for sure. Be aware of what you are bringing on the table and what you cannot bring on the table.
Yeah.
Right? Let me give you an example. So this organization is SC2, which offered me this, right? Again, and when it opened up in India, uh, they discussed with me is what roles are open that we would like you to take up. And I was open to do anything, right? I was leading a performance management area. I was looking at doing anything on this. What they offered me was, would you like to become the head of HR for India? With no background technically from an HR standpoint. I don't have an MBA in HR. I don't have any technical background in HR. So that brought in a lot of insecurity and self doubt.
Doubts. Yeah, absolutely. Like
Right?
that's
Because will I
likely to have. Yeah.
will I be able to do it? But I would have been a fool to say no to it. And it's an opportunity at that point that I said, if you as an organization and leaders are coming to me and saying,
Hmm.
would you be okay to do it? I'm a fool to say no. That means you are trusting in me. Why should I not trust in myself?
Yeah.
But I still had doubts. I had lots of self doubt. So, what I did to remove those self doubts, one, got myself a core HR certification to build the technical aspects. Because I understand what does uh, comp and ben means, what does the technicalities behind talent acquisition means, and all that, right? So just get a core basic understanding of what it means. Secondly, hire people who are experts. I can't become an expert overnight in benefits and rewards in talent acquisition to hire people who are better than an L&D. Of course, I was from an L&D, so that was still okay. But I'm just saying, hire people who can do the work for you,
Right.
and that is all insecurity. If I would have said, I will do everything, I know everything, I can do it. The organization is saying, be the head of HR. I will do everything and can be better than everything. That would have been a disaster, right? So it's self-awareness, it's insecurity. That's what we need to do away with as leaders. That's a big mindset shift that we need to do. I think I'll give you another point. I've seen uh, a lot of people who say, I need to develop my team. I will help you get promoted.
Yeah.
I will help you get to the next level. But if you are not moving from where you are, where will people go into?
That's so true. Yeah.
If I am sitting in that position, how will people take my
Yeah.
position? So what I've told my team, or what I usually tell my team, your job is to push me out of my seat.
In a positive way. Right? Like,
Do something
yeah.
that others can say, but this person is ready to take your job, so go find something else. And that for me is a challenge that I will continuously look at,
Hmm.
doing something more and different. That's insecurity that stems from that fact. And that's where, for them, for the team to grow and to give them the confidence that they should push you out, you need to not be in front of them but in behind. So I'm again coming back to them and saying, I need to clear their path and then come behind and help clear the back path as well, so that they are growing.
So this actually, like, when I look at this entire approach of leading a group, that means that you are that journey with a sword as well as a shield. And there are times when you would be standing in front of them with shield, so that there's they're protected from maybe the repercussions of the challenges. But there are also times that you're standing behind them with a sword, knowing that you're constantly pushing them out of the comfort zone.
Absolutely.
How do you create that repo, that ecosystem wherein people start trusting you, that as a leader, this guy is pushing me, but he's also pushing me, uh, not for his own selfish reasons, but for my betterment. So, like, is there a process, is there a framework approach that you constantly think that, okay, if I put Sumit today among a new set of people, uh, do you have a structured approach for it, or like what's your mantra for building that repo?
There are a couple of things that have helped me. One is for sure building relationship. I think one, unless you know your people, know your team, and they know you, it becomes difficult for anybody to trust you. Whether you're uh, building a new team or whether you're joining an existing team, relationship building helps a lot.
So true.
Just understanding what somebody is coming from, who they are, not just what they bring on the table, right? Who they are, what are their strengths, how can you use each other's strengths in the team, and that's all building on relationships, and then bringing the team together and saying, individually we can't do anything, but together we can do so many different things, right? So that first step is that building that whole trust and relationship on it. Second,
How do you do that? Like, before you move on to second one, like, would you go out on lunches, or would you spend a lot of one-on-one time?
it's
How?
a combination of a lot of things, right? Just having that conversation, candid conversation, I think is very, very important. Sharing who you are and what you are makes it a lot of difference, right? So if I'm just trying to understand if they are married, if what problems they're having at home, what they like at work, what they don't like at work, and when they ask me the same question, I don't answer anything. That doesn't help, right?
Yeah.
I start with sharing first about myself, about everything, and then asking, right? It makes it more comfortable for people to understand and know me. So that is the process of building relationship. If you, at times, again, from a leadership perspective, right, we feel uncomfortable laying ourselves bare in front of our team.
I really wanted to ask that question, but yes, yes, please go ahead.
We don't do that.
Yeah.
What will people think about my vulnerabilities?
Absolutely. Like that's such an insecure zone to, venture into, that, like, as a leader, the portrayal is that I'm an absolute hero, right? I'm a rock solid person who have overcome everything. So, like, I'm a leader today.
Yeah.
And they forget to be human in that way. So that's like, you're okay with that vulnerability.
Absolutely okay, and I think everybody should be okay with that vulnerability, because unless you talk about what you don't know and what you are probably not as good as in, then how will you ask for help and support from your own team members who may be excellent around that? And they will always feel he or she knows better than me, and if they have a problem, they will come to you and expect you to solve it when you don't know it yourself. So talking about vulnerability is a big plus point, I would say. And it's not that, so let's take a pause here, right? Let's take understand here, saying, I'm not saying that if I am a CFO,
Yeah.
or if I am an HR professional, let's take CFO for example. A CFO can't go and say, lay bare his vulnerability that I'm not good with numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or he can't go and say, I'm not good with Excel. And that's something that is bare minimum requirement for that job or for that role. And if you're not good at that, then there's a problem that is you need to solve.
Yeah.
I'm saying in general there would be things around. So in HR also, I can't go, I don't understand labor law, I don't understand employee relations. I can't, because I need to know that. It's a requirement for my job as a basic thing that I need to know. Maybe I can lay bare and saying, I don't understand compensation technicalities. or I can lay bare and say I don't know how the recruitment system works, right? Or those kind of things can still be okay, which I can rely on somebody to help me. So of course, vulnerability to an extent where it doesn't sound like you're not
You don't belong.
you're not belong, so that's something that is very important. So relationship in that context, what I was mentioning is important.
And the contradiction to this entire mindset is that the more confident a person is about his strengths, the easier it is for that person to be vulnerable. I somehow find this so true when I observe people that confidence is the direct key to vulnerability, and only confident person can say that, hey, like, I need help here, right?
Again, it comes to self awareness.
Yeah.
How much are you aware of yourself?
Mhm.
And that probably has been the biggest, out of my 25 years of career, the biggest shift of mind. When you say got to understood that concept is there, right? In emotional intelligence, that concept is there.
Self awareness.
As I was growing in education, through school, through college, even some organization that I was, nobody talked about emotional intelligence and how that is important. And when I came to know about it, that changed a lot of things from a mindset perspective. And I think that's an important aspect for every leader to understand. If you are not self aware, there is nothing that you can do for your team. Nothing. You can't help them. You can't have good relationships with them. You can't lead them. There's nothing you can do.
Like, very interestingly, a few weeks back, I was boasting to my colleagues that, like, Sumit Bhatia would be coming on the podcast. And somebody happened to be who have worked with you for a very long time. And interestingly, while you're talking about emotional intelligence, the gentleman told me that Sumit Bhatia was a person who was talking about emotional intelligence way before emotional intelligence became a vogue term in this corporate. Before people knew, he was practicing and preaching. Uh, I don't know how right the word preaching would be, but he was talking about emotional intelligence as an asset. How important do you think is emotional intelligence for anyone who's thinking about stepping into leadership role? I know you've talked about it before I asked this question, but like,
Yeah, I think if there's only one skill that you need to learn, that should be the only skill that you need to learn as a leader,
yeah,
because it differentiates you from the crowd to an immense level, and that makes a huge difference, right? So has there been instances where I've not felt angry in my career journey? Has there been instances where I've not felt vulnerable, where I've not felt like crying, where I've not felt like make cracking a joke in front of everybody, where I've not felt like laughing out loud without thinking on all of those things? Multiple occasions. Have I done it all perfectly? Never. But when I've done it wrong, have I been self-aware to go back and reflect and say, maybe I could have done better? A lot of times. And that is what is more important, right? If you will you will make mistakes. We are humans, we are wired. Our basic wiring is through emotions. Basic wiring.
yeah,
We may be different in different emotions, we may feel differently, we may react differently, but basic wiring is same, right? All of us have the same emotional wiring. It's the level which is different in each one of us. We may be more easy to laugh, easy to cry, easy to get angry. All that happens in different people. But are you aware of that? Are you aware of which emotion makes you react how? And that makes a lot of difference, right? What are some of the things that triggers you to become angry? What are some of the things that make you cry, make you laugh? And if you are in that awareness zone, then do you know if it's the right time to cry,
do that.
if it's the right time to become angry? That changes the whole dynamics of leadership.
Absolutely.
I think it's probably even more important than your IQ or whatever we have. And I think this will help taking next 5, 10 years, 15 years with AI coming in. If you are strong on emotional intelligence, I think you you will be able to manage a lot of such changes going.
And I have like an entire, set of questions for you as far as AI and future is concerned. But let's for a moment dig into the emotional intelligence aspect as well. So like people who work with you, like most of them have never seen you shouting, right? One saw you shouting, but then like that too within a closed cabin, knowing that like you were completely pally with that person. So when you talk about emotional intelligence, it's not just about your awareness, but the difference between, or the time gap between an event and the reaction, you elongate that. So like how do you try to, because I sometimes struggle with reacting, or getting angry, or reflecting, or immediately reacting to something. There that happens with me. So how do you do that? Like I know it doesn't happen overnight, but like was it like a constant process of you losing a battle, then going back, reflecting, and then eventually becoming like a person who's better at it? Or was that like a very strong awareness and you've stopped doing something?
No, it's a process. It's not overnight. And I've heard a lot of people saying some people are born like that, some people are always
Calm.
calm, some people are never angry, and some it's not true.
Mhm.
Of course, there is, like I said, levels of emotions in us
Mm.
are different from a wiring standpoint, but it's not true that everybody is born like that, right? We are all born same.
Set of humans and emotions.
Yeah,
That's
we're all born same. It's how you grow up, what you go through, your entire journey through home, through school, and all that.
Mhm.
That's how you get built up.
Yeah.
Uh, Similarly, when you look at reaction, I think it took a lot of process in terms of being self-aware, then being able to manage some of those situations, reflecting a lot on that. And there are ways to do it, right? Reflecting uh, in a silent moment that you're having, writing it down, journaling, a lot of things that, again, a whole discussion that we can have on AI itself. But for me personally, it was a lot of reflection.
And
For
was journaling also a part of it? Did you document your emotions?
not not to start with. I've started journaling last couple of years more than I used to do
Mhm.
earlier.
Would you recommend people do that, or
It's
is it a personal choice?
to each his own,
Okay.
right? I don't recommend as a playbook on what you should do. So some people say listen to music to calm down, do meditation to calm down. I never do meditation. I've never done it.
Okay.
Right? There are other ways that what works for you.
What works for you?
Writing works for me
Okay.
a lot. And just channeling, not journaling itself, but writing works for me. Having my own reflection time works for me.
Wow.
I use a lot of my driving time as a reflection as well.
And are you driving? Are you behind the wheel or somebody else?
I
is
am driving.
Is that not risky to do?
No, I'm more calm doing
Okay.
that, right? I'm at at in many instances I've driven to office and back with no music on, no distraction on, just thinking, reflecting. If there has been an instant through the day that has triggered something which I felt that shouldn't have happened, then I'm reflecting on that a lot. And the other thing, to answer your question and close that out, is as leaders, the less you react, the more you respond, the better leader you will be.
And that's like so understandable, and I completely fail to understand why people don't adopt that approach, because like as a human being, you would in fact, like I have cats at my place as well. Even cats, that's an animal, hate a person who's reactive, right? And human beings would dread a person who they cannot trust emotionally. Like work is not just about achieving everything, it is also about learning from failures. And I think the core of a leader is also kind of identified or explored, knowing how they deal with failures. And emotional outburst which I see from so many people, or at least at so many places that I've worked unnecessarily, they kind of completely erode that relationship building activity that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So somebody, and it also reminds me that like I love talking about it during my interactions about leadership, is that when you becoming a leader, you're leaving behind your, or at least you're I don't know how to rightly put that in words, but as you're shifting from a manager to a leader, what you're also doing is you're leaving behind the strategic things and adopting more of emotional approach. Because at after a specific level, everyone has the same set of skill, but the differentiating factor is how they manage people and how they manage themselves. And emotional intelligence is such an important playbook or key to unlock that differentiating factor as to why somebody should be hired or why somebody should be made a leader, purely because they know how to manage their emotions.
Absolutely agree, right? And I think these are all interchangeable terms. And like I said, I think you need to be more versatile, probably is the right word as a leader. Because somebody saying you are a manager, not a leader. I think we're all managers at every
You
stage.
can't
So we're all leaders at every stage. It's just that how versatile you are to do
adopt
things
in
differently at different times as needed. I think that's what it is all about, right? At times you need to go down, manage things, project manage, people manage, that is required. At times you need to step up and look things holistically, look at strategy, look at other aspects of things. So it's all being versatile.
yeah.
And versatility, I think, is a big curve, and that's what you need to achieve in the emotional intelligence cycle, right? So that's what is more important. And I know you asked a question around the team as well earlier, where I was mentioning relationship was one angle on how I would do it. The other angle that works well for the team to look up to you as a leader is not just what strengths you're bringing in, but what you are uh, supporting and what backs you have for them when they are not looking, when they don't even know
Yeah.
that you are there, what you're doing at the back. I think that makes a lot of difference. Eventually, it comes out and they look at it, whether they look at it through their own growth, whether the opportunities they get, or whatever, if they're facing a challenge and suddenly the challenge is gone, right? They understand some of those things, and you don't have to tell them every time that you are their leader. At times, you have to show them without them knowing, so that they know, right? They have somebody who will always be there for them. I think so. Relationship, and that probably has been the biggest aspect that I feel is what has helped me in building good teams.